Hi, this is Olivier. Today we're going to show a short video using context for translation for software applications. The first method is using a Google Chrome extension for web applications. The idea here is to associate with one click the strings that are shown on one string of a running application. The second method to add context with Figma projects is to add a localizer plugin that will capture the strings associated with a design element. The third method is to associate screenshots directly within Localizer String Manager, whichever the context capture method. The same downstream process to send files to be translated to Trados Cloud or Trados Studio is going to be the same. And the association of those string or context is going to be kept there. Let's start with the demo showing each one of the three methods and then showing in Trados Cloud how that shows up. The first method is using a web application like this one here, where you can navigate, you can add to cart, you can show the order history, you can go to the cart and so on. We're now showing this in a locale that looks just like the original strings to be translated. And just by clicking here, you'll be able to capture the context and associate this context with each one of the strings that is being found on this interface here. Let's see what it looks like in Localizer. In Localizer, this project is referenced by Lingoport Rebel Address Trados context. Let's go to the Localizer page. You see that you have US as the source locale and the regular stuff that you all know. So if we go to strings now, we are going to see each one of the string that is part of the resource files to be translated. And for those strings where I clicked that Chrome extension button, I can see the associated context. If it's blue here, it means there's a context associated. If it's gray, there are no associated context. Let's click one of them. Here is the brain surgeon droid. And here is the Corvette vehicle. We can send those strings to be translated to Trados Enterprise. So let's go and pick a few strings to send for translation. We could just send anything to be translated. I'm just going to pick 3 to make it fast and just send those to translation in French. There, that project is now going to be created in Trados Enterprise. Let's go to the second method to associate a context with a string in Figma. So in terms of the projects that we have here, we have a second project called Lingoport Figma. Here we are in Figma. We are going to open Lingoport Localizer plugin. And now that that's open, we can select the strings on this design element, and those strings will have this context associated with it. We could select more than one. I want to select this strings. You see that a plugin reflects which strings are to be sent for translation. I don't want to have Powell or their email address. I just want 3 strings to be sent for translation: login, register, and photo. Login, register, and photo. I'm going to review the export. There should be 3 of them. And here we go. We are exporting those strings together with the context associated to the project in Localizer. That's it. We're done here. So let's go now to Command Center. And let's open this Figma project. I've just added 3 strings: login, register, and photo. And right away, you can see that for each string, it has an associated context. If I click on photo, for example, you will recognize the design element that was captured as the context for this string. So to send the strings to be translated, all I need to do is click this icon. You notice that there's a blue circle here that catches your eye that says you may want to do something. And this icon is just send files to be translated. So here we go. And Localizer knows what has been translated before and it tracks in its database what needs to be translated. And so right now it's going to gather the strings to be translated and send them together with the associated context. So that was the second way. It was in Figma. Now, the third method is for the projects where you don't have the first two methods, to just associated screenshots this time. So you've screenshotted the application as you wanted, and now in strings again, you will see that some of them I've already associated with the context via screenshot, like billing, for example, is there for billing. I'm going to add for those strings one screenshot, because that screenshot contains all of them. And for now, I'm going to leave timesheet and those 4 strings at the bottom without the screenshot. So let's do this here. Let's do the multi-select. Let's select from filter to client, access, export, and so on. And let's assign a context image by clicking this button. And at that point, I'm going to go with this one. There, those strings have now been associated, and they are now blue. And so filter, for example, if I click here, you see filter right there. Let's do the same thing in localizer. Again, this blue indicator says you may want to send things for translation. Can be done typically on a schedule, but here I'm just going to click the button. And so what you've seen is the 3 capture methods for context. And now we're going to see those projects in Trados projects. So I am going to go to the Trados environment, the Trados cloud. Here right now, you see that there are no projects. I'm waiting to refresh so you can see that those projects were created automatically by the system here. So I'm going to click refresh here. And here are my 3 projects. One where the context was captured via the Chrome extension, one where the Figma plugin was used, and one where screenshots were associated with them. Let's open one of them. The method is the same for all of them, really. So if I click here, for example, I will see which stage it's in, and when it's in the translation stage, however your workflow is set up, I can open it up in the online editor. And from the online editor or from Trados Studio, I will be able to view the context for Trados Cloud. It's a question of setting up the preview. I'm going to set up the preview. I prefer to have it in a new window, but for this demo here, I'm going to say side by side. And I'm going to set up the preview type to be the lingoport PXML file. And what you're going to see is here is my brain surgeon droid over here. If I were to click on this one, it would be this particular droid, and that one, the Corvette. So I'm going to translate that really briefly here. Click this one here and that one there. So droid in French is more like this. We'll change that. Here we go. And I'm going to use neurochirurgia. There we are. I am done. I'm going to say complete. And from there, the process is going to be moving to a final check. This needs to be done by a user inside the workflow for everything to work properly. So I wanted to complete that task. And at that point, the files are going to be generated and made available to localizer. Let's go back to localizer and check the Rebel outfitters. So everything is copacetic, everything is back in the repository, everything was translated correctly, and you see that PrepKit 15 was received. The same can happen with the other 2 projects. They will show, I'm going to show really briefly the context for each one of them. So going back to projects here, the Figma side of things, let's open the file for translation. So let's say this one here, translate in French. And here we have, again, some of the capture from Figma. The one that I captured on the fly was photo, and here it is. And then finally, for the last project, I'm going to go back to project. Returning the file is the same. You just need to complete it, the stages. The screenshots here. So let's go to the stages again. Here they are to be translated into French. I'm going to click here, open the online editor. And you're going to see that billing is there. And I did associate the first 12 or 14 or so strings with some context, but not the last 4. So those, for example, active access is there, export and so on. But create new project here is there, but timesheet, there's no context. The nice thing is you didn't have to capture the context before sending the files over. What I'm going to do is in command center, I'm going to associate the context now that things have been sent over, and you can update context. You can do different things here. So I'm going to this project and associate context now, even though the files have been sent for translation. Here we go. It's again in strings, and I'm going to associate context for those last 4 strings. So very briefly here we go. Associate the context. Click the string that needs to be there. Open, upload. And now those timesheet here, there it is. So the context has been associated. And if I go back to the online editor now, you are going to notice that those are here. Timesheet for this one is now associated. So again, to complete the whole round trip, it's you accept the task and you do the translation and you go through the process. That's it for this demo. Thank you.